I'm real sensitive to this notion that these guys are here to study. You know, I know that we lose sight of that sometimes, and actually it's their primary purpose and primary function for being here, and so I'm very sensitive to their time and their needs during finals week, and we have virtually no meetings. You know, we'll probably have one film session the entire week, and so I just try to give them as much time as we possibly can. Our practices are generally cut a little bit shorter. We get them in, we get them out. I'm not saying that they're all going to take, you know, great advantage of the time, but I feel like it's important for me, and it's my responsibility to give them as much time as I possibly can, or to take as little time as I possibly can, so that they can focus on their exams and finish up academically the way they need to.
In your experience, what has been the first game out of exams been like for your teams?
I've had a mixed bag. I've coached long enough, of course, to where we've played great games, and we looked like, and we've coached games where we looked like we just came out of finals, and so I don't know what to. I mean, I've been kind of all over the map. I don't know what to expect with this. I do know that Rice is a very, very good offensive basketball team, and so the best shooting team that we've faced, I think, and so it's going to really challenge our defensive play, and so regardless of how I feel or what has happened in the past or whatever, we have to be ready to play Saturday night, and I'm hopeful that we can have a couple of good practices today and tomorrow, and have them ready for Saturday. But even like tomorrow, because of the exam schedule, we're going to have to practice at 9:45 in the morning, so that we can get them in, get a brief practice in, and get them out, because the afternoon's covered with finals, and so there's a lot of adjustments that you have to make during this week.
You've had this week to kind of step back and kind of take a look at everything. What's your assessment? Are you pleased with where you guys are at with ACC play a little over 2 weeks away?
I'm glad we still have a couple of weeks. I think that there are things that we certainly have to get better at, and but I also think that there are some things that probably have a little bit of a cap. I mean, we're not going to be great in certain areas. We have to figure out how to be good enough in every area, and then wherever we have a chance to be great, try to be great in those areas. And so I'm pleased. I think we've made progress in a lot of ways. I think we've made some improvements. I still have some, I don't want to call them frustrations, but I still have some things that I would like to see growth take place with, but I really don't think it's because of a shortage of their effort. I think it's more of trying to shake some habits and trying to shake some mindsets, and I think that by calling it to their attention, I think that they're doing the best they can to make the modifications that they need to make. We're just not all the way there yet, but I wouldn't want to be playing our best basketball of the season right now. I'd rather that come later, and not that I have any control of that, because again, I've had teams that have played their best basketball now or in January, and but hopefully our best basketball is still yet to come.
Is it challenging to find and sort of acknowledge those gaps, though, and not, kind of keep yourself from, kind of banging your head against the wall on certain things, sort of just accept where those gaps might be?
I don't think that you accept where the caps are, because in reality, we don't know exactly where they're at. Okay, we know that we're not going to be maybe a great shot blocking team, but Sheldon jumps up and gets 5 blocks the other day. So you don't sit there and say, okay, don't try to block shots because we're not a great shot blocking team. It's just your expectation probably goes down. Your expectation level goes down a little bit because, okay, we're not going to block shots a bunch. So we have to maybe take more charges, or we have to do a better job of this or that or the other. And so I don't think that you give in to the areas where we're not as good. You keep trying to make them as good as they can be, but I think that your expectation level has to be in line with what reality is. And so that's what I've tried to do, is I've just tried to get my expectation level, for the most part, I'm not always successful with this. Try to get my expectation level in line with what, again, what reality is.
Yeah, we were talking about the start of ACC play, Kevin. Did you, when you guys were newer, did you get the chance to watch the first game there with Fender or Dan much at all?
Craig, I only saw part of it on the, they had a TV monitor in the locker room, and so I saw a good bit of the second half, but I didn't watch it critically, if you will. I wasn't watching it and, okay, how are we going to defend Notre Dame? It was kind of interesting to me because I was actually found myself watching it more from the perspective of having scrimmaged Villanova, watching what some things they were doing relative to things that had gone on in our scrimmage. And so I kind of found myself, one thing that jumped off the page is Notre Dame can really score. So that jumped off the page, but I'm not going to ruin Christmas thinking about that. So Rice can really score too. I've got my hands full with that. I can't worry about that yet.
Did Josh Hart look like that against you guys?
At times, yeah, at times he did. And yeah, he's good. He's a good player, really good. And they have a good team, obviously, and Jay does a great job with them. So, but yes, he played. There were times that day. Now I don't know that he looked like that the whole day. I mean, I don't know if he played the entire game like he played in the second half that I watched, but he must have been pretty spectacular. But he's really good.
When you first got here, Kevin, in your first few months, I mean, this was a program that kind of in its past few years before you got here saw its win totals and its overall success kind of decrease a little bit. When you first got here, what did you kind of notice when you talked with people, be it fans or people who work here? What did you kind of notice or kind of glean the overall tenor behind this program being?
I think that one of the first things that I heard was how everybody had the desire to get the Pete back to the way it was several years ago. I didn't know exactly what that meant. I didn't know what it had gotten to and where it had come from. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But that was one of the big things that I heard, and I think that in non-conference play particularly, I think it's a nationwide thing, the decline in attendance, and I think you can go to some of the premier places, the blue bloods in college basketball, and see a lot of empty seats in non-conference games. And so, I would love to see those days come back. I don't know. Again, I don't know if you have the number one team in the country if that happens in non-conference play. I don't. And so I just know that it's all over the country where you see lots of empty seats, and you might not at Kentucky, okay? You might not if your gym holds 7,000 or 8,000, but anybody that's got a pretty formidable sized place, just about, there's quite a few empty seats, and so that's one of the things that I heard, and obviously I'm really amazed every time I walk out into the gym on game night at how great our student section looks. And I'm sure I haven't even felt or seen the real full effect yet. But it's impressive to me to walk out and see those kids there, so, you know, I'm one honestly that doesn't buy into the notion that if we had a better non-conference schedule that more people would come. I don't believe that. Now, we're gonna make a better non-conference schedule, but I don't think that more people are going to come because we have a better non-conference schedule. I think they're gonna wait until their attention turns to basketball and ACC play comes, and that's, and would I like to change it? Yeah, I'll do anything. I'll go out and stand on my head, you know, on campus for an hour if my head can take it, and if we can get more people in here for non-conference games. But I just think that's where it's trending, and that's, you know, people are finding either other things to do with their time or other things to do with their entertainment dollar. And you have so many games on television, so many, that I just think that's a tough thing to navigate right now.
Yeah, as you kind of self-evaluate this week, is there anything, you know, you look back at film that, you know, I guess you kind of found, what do you think the solution is to getting this team to be more consistent, or to kind of sustain those strong, you know,
Yeah.
sections of play that you kind of spoke about?
Well, I think that, I think there's a couple of ways of looking at that. One is we could be a little more consistent and not be as good, because if we, you know, we wouldn't be talking about consistency if we had an 8-point lead at halftime and we won by 16, you know? Or a 5-point lead at halftime and won by 12. But we talk about consistency when we have a 20-point lead at halftime and we win by 12. You know, and so I guess for me, that's actually more of a positive, and I've tried to spend some time thinking about this. It's more of a positive for me that we can have the brilliant stretches, because that means there's brilliance in there. Okay, we are playing at a really, really high level at times, and sustaining that high level is proving to be a little bit of an issue, but honestly, not everybody can play at a really high level. So I think that. I also think that I'm not going to give into this, but is that one of those things that I'm beating my head against the wall with, because perhaps we're not deep enough to sustain that? You know, with all of the minutes that our guys log in games, is there just sort of a natural drop-off in their level of intensity, because it's hard to sustain that same level of intensity for 34 or 35 minutes in a game. So I don't know. I just know that I'm glad that there's some really good in there, and my job is to keep pressing for more and more and more, and get it as close to 40 minutes as I can get it as consistent as I can get it, or help them get it as consistent as we can get it. But I certainly think that we have some wayward, some personalities that are wayward in their focus. You know, that just, okay, we've got a lead, their mind drifts, and they lose focus. We certainly have that, and I don't know if I'm going to get that fixed. I'm not. I don't know if I'm going to get that fixed. I try, and it's maddening to me, but I don't know that I'll. These guys have been a certain way for a long time, you know, and there's a phrase that not many media people know about, that coaches say a lot. We're not social workers. We say that a lot. We're not social workers. We don't change. You know, we're not social workers. We're not behavioralists. You know, we're coaches, and I'm trying to help these guys change to help them, and sometimes I see progress, and sometimes I don't, but that's okay. They're not perfect. They're 20 years old or 22 years old. They're not perfect.
From your experience, how difficult is it to develop that depth in the middle of the season?
Hard, yeah, I mean, and you know, actually, our older group would help us some in that regard if, when we got those leads, that those could be extended, because then you get a chance to get other guys' time and see their progress and help work on their progress. And so it's kind of a double-edged sword. Not only do you have to fight your butt off to the end of the game, which kind of stinks when, you know, you'd like to have a half off once in a while. Okay, well, we got this one. And, but you can also get guys more playing time and give them an opportunity for their growth. And so we kind of get whammied on both accounts there.
Are you seeing signs either in practice or in games, guys other than Jamel and Michael are starting to score points?
Yeah, I think, you know, practice doesn't feel, honestly, as dominated by those two. It does by Mike sometimes. Mike tends to dominate practice a lot, but offensively. But honestly, that seems to be more of a game thing than a practice thing, because there are lots of practices where you look down at the stat sheet after practice and you have 6 or 7 guys in practice that have as many points or sometimes more points as Jamel or Mike. Now, not always with Mike. I mean, Mike scores a lot, but I think that I think that of those top 6 guys that are playing, those other 4 guys are all more than capable of being double-figure guys every night. Okay, any night they can be in double figures, and we just need as much from them as we can get. I don't expect the guys after that to be scoring in double figures. I don't see it in practice as much. I'm not going to see it in games. If I don't see it in practice, I'm not going to see it in games. But those other guys score readily in practice, and so I know, and they've proven they can do it in games. They've done it in games too, just not quite as at a high of a level, and not as often.
You're gonna need that for confidence.
We're gonna need everything we can get. Those 6 guys are going to dictate whether we win or lose, in terms of scoring points especially.
You had talked in the preseason, Kevin, about a 9-man rotation being sort of an ideal goal. I mean, at this point, I guess 10 games in, have you even just like mentally speaking, kind of shortened that?
Yeah, you know, we played 7 really against Penn State the other day, and we played 8, but you know, I think one guy only played a couple of minutes, and you know, it's tough because I'm very sensitive to the guys that don't play as much. My staff tells me I worry about that more than like any head coach, they think, because maybe I was that guy at times, and so I am sensitive to that for those guys, and you have really good kids sitting over there. You know, Jonathan Milligan's a terrific kid. Damon Wilson's a terrific kid. I mean, we've got guys sitting over there that are terrific kids that I want to get in the game, but you know, on game night, my responsibility is to coach to win the game, and so that's what I do, and sometimes certain guys gets called, and sometimes some nights it doesn't, and so ideally 9 would be my number. I haven't felt like, from what I've seen both in practice and in games yet, that we have 9 that I can consistently rely on.
Anything else?
Okay.
Do you expect to have a different AD before the end of the season?
No, but that's kind of a smart aleck answer, because I doubt if Scott leaves, if the chancellor gets somebody hired that quickly.
Oh,
So,
I didn't ask directly then.
no, I don't. I really don't care to, and it doesn't pay any dividend to speculate, because I've been in Scott's shoes, and it's no fun when there are reports out there that are just completely untrue. And, you know, I have my own personal stories and a long line of them that I could tell you that, and so it just doesn't benefit anyone, and it doesn't benefit the situation to speculate. So, I do feel confident in this. If Scott Barnes decides to leave, I'll know before you guys know. That I'm sure of. And, you know, I got asked last night, if whatever, and then I wake up this morning, all I could say was I hadn't heard anything, and I wake up this morning and see that Scott's issued a statement, and it completely confirmed what I believed in my heart at that particular moment, and that is, if he makes a decision to leave or anything like that, I'll know before the media knows, and so, but to speculate beyond that, I don't. I don't think it's fair to him.
If you get a chance to speak to him, you know, in the past 12 or 18 hours or whatever?
I got a text from him last night, late, and certainly won't divulge what the text said, but I spoke to Scott last Friday. We had our regular meeting that we normally have. He texted me congratulations after the game on Saturday, and then I had not had any dialogue with him until I got the text from him last night.
Was it a reassuring text?
It was just a text, and again, it just. I wouldn't say no that it was reassuring, other than it just confirmed what I already knew, and that's that. And I wasn't surprised to find out that there were erroneous reports of him taking a job that were false, because unfortunately there are people that think that it's not their job to report the news. They think it's their job to create the news. And so when you go and report a guy's taking a job and you haven't spoken to him and it's not true, then that's just not right. So
That confidence that he would tell you first before we get out, does that kind of, you know, kind of give you peace, like when something like this gets reported? I mean, I'm sure you've been through this situation a lot.
yeah,
You don't get
I'm a big boy on these things. I've been through them, and you literally feel like you're at the eye of a storm, because the media makes such a deal about it and wants to be the first to report something, and says things that just aren't true. I mean, and like I said, I've been there. I've been personally I've been that guy, and it's not any fun for you. It's not any fun for your family. It's not any fun for the people you work with. And not when any fun's not even. It's not fair. It's not a fair way and a professional way to deal with these things. So I just feel like I know Scott Barnes well enough to know he is a complete professional. He is completely full of integrity, and whatever happens, but it will be handled by him in the most professional, upright, upstanding, honest, ethical way that it could be handled, because that's who he is.
I know you don't want to speculate, but are you confident that he'll be here in a month? I mean, based on.
Oh, no, I'm not, No. But I'm not confident he'll be here in a month either, see, because nobody likes him. So,
Especially after the start of the last game.
yeah, yeah. So I'm sitting there, he's sitting 6 feet away from me, and there's an official that I don't recognize. And I look over and I say, hey, what's his name? And,
That was close.
yeah, you got the first letter right. So he tells me the wrong name. So about 3 minutes later, I'm calling by the official by his name. And eventually he turns around and says, it's this, not that. So I had the wrong name because I had bad info. So,
Didn't call technical on you, did he?
no, he apologized to me later he said he was a jerk. He said he shouldn't have been. And I said, well, I was the one that didn't have the right name. And then I looked over at Genius over there. And so, anyway.
Did you just throw him under the bus and that? Oh, no.
I absolutely, I absolutely did. You better believe I did. I said, it's that idiot over there that didn't have, no, I didn't say that. But I said, he was the one that told me your name wrong.
And then he backed up, and then he pulled that board.
So, anyway, here's what I know about jobs and things. And Roy Williams told me this a long time ago, after the first year that I worked for him. It's never the right time, really. It's never a good time. There's never a good time, and no one ever knows the external forces that exist and that go on in a person's life that helps dictate decisions. You know, people will just jump to a conclusion and say anything. They'll say anything that almost puts a bad spin on it. And you know, something else Roy Williams used to say, and this will sound like Roy, is don't condemn thy neighbor until you've walked in his moccasins for 2 full moons. And sounds kind of silly, but unless you know, you don't know. And so if Scott leaves, professionally we'll all be disappointed. Those of us that know him and know the external forces, we will understand, and that's as forthcoming as I can be at this point.
What do you mean by external forces?
It can be anything. It could be family. It could be. That's the first thing that comes to my mind is family. It could be lots of things, lots of things, and so it can just be, you know, people can talk about timing, or people can talk about people. The naysayers are going to say what they're going to say. They're, you know, anytime, you know, you leave for a job and somebody's mad. I mean, you know, now somebody's happy, but somebody's mad. Jamie Dixon left here and somebody was mad. I left Vanderbilt, somebody was mad. You know, oh, well, and they don't know. They don't, unless they've walked in your shoes or unless they're living your life, they don't know. And people have to do things for reasons that, you get nervous? Yeah. People have to do things for reasons that they have to do them, and even though we're in public jobs, we still have private lives, and we still have, you know, we still have our own issues that you guys don't get to see, and so Roy was right. Don't condemn thy neighbor until you've walked in his moccasins for 2 full moons. That's a good one.